You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Okay. That was a nice introduction. Okay. But you're going to tell us, Victoria, why are you going to be using that Kleenex? It's not because I'm making you cry, is it?
No, I'm sorry. I have one right leaky eye, and I apologize. I don't know if it's something in the air.
Oh, it's got to be that. I mean, I get the same way.
My fake eyelashes are not wanting to stay on, so if something starts waving at you, just pretend you don't see it.
Oh, yeah, okay. Taylor, and we have Mighty Ethan there helping you there. Got the bandana on.
Thanks, gentlemen, for all your help today.
Hello.
Ethan looks like he came in on a, chopper or something like that,
A big Harley.
Yeah, big Harley, big hog. Well, we have Victoria Johnson on. Everybody knows Victoria Johnson. She's the Queen of Burleson, we know. You wouldn't say that?
No. When I worked for the congressman, our staff would tease me and call me the Queen of Johnson County.
Yeah. Well, you've been around, and you've been not just around here as a citizen and a resident and a student and all that, but you've been involved very closely into the public life of this this university. What am I saying? Public life of this institution. Yeah, I brain locked right there. I was thinking about school for some reason. I do that a lot these days.
Ew.
Turning 60 is not for the faint of heart. I'm telling you. You walk into a room. What am I doing here? Or and that kind of stuff. You hate it.
It's also that season, right? You're hearing so much of friends whose kids are getting ready for college. They're going to fish camps and their last minute tours and classes and dorm shopping. So it's just on everybody's brain. I think that back to school feeling. So
I've been because I was looking at my DBU and my Hill rosters this morning. Maybe that's why I had that on the brain, because I don't check them out every day, but I need to see how many are coming so I can more or less prepare material and that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's off the topic. We're going to talk about just what's going on with the city. We're going to talk about that bond. Because last time you were here, you had some concerns, and we're going to address those concerns now and see if they're being met.
Sure.
Whatever concerns you had. Also, just talk about in general what it means to represent a community, as opposed to just the ones that brung you. And then, and that's the kind of thing you have to deal with when you're an elected person. You probably heard this. I elected you for a certain reason, right? You ever hear that?
Oh, I've heard it.
Yeah, and that's not really how it works, is it? At least that's how it's not supposed to. You're supposed to think of the bigger picture, right?
Yeah. I try. I try to think about a little bit of everything, even the things that don't always come easy to me.
Yeah, and we also talk about how you handle criticism. Sure. Because I'm sure every now and then you might get a critical email or a critical posting on some Facebook page or whatever else. And, it's probably one of the less pleasant aspects of the job, but it is part of the job, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's
you have to take it into consideration that constructive criticism can be healthy. Maybe it's something I haven't thought about. Maybe it's something that hasn't crossed my mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, but knowing you've been prepared pretty well, and you could probably answer the questions as well as anybody I know, because you always like that as a student as well. You're always prepared, and so that's a sign of consistency. I'm doing the sharing routine here, which is always kind of an interesting thing to see happen because I'm so technologically inept.
I'm with you.
Yeah. But anyway, let's talk about the sponsors, at least the first round. And we talk about Daniel, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Daniel Baisden has been running this joint now for about 5 years. And it's a pretty serious workout. You don't do CrossFit, do you?
I don't.
Well, I mean,
I'm impressed by those that do.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're not training for the Olympics, but this isn't just some minor thing. You get training, you get coaching. They have trainers there, so you're not just throwing an iron around. You're going to get professional advice and assistance and all that. So check out the webpage and see what the memberships are and things of that nature. So CrossFit Burleson, and also Shandy Stogsdill. She's the real estate queen. I'm going to have her on probably in about 3 weeks.
I'm really curious to hear an update from the real estate perspective.
Yeah.
I sometimes try to pick Rick Green's ear and say, I'm just amazed. Now that interest rates are going up, what does this mean for home buyers and home sellers?
Y'all are very similar as students, because she also would come in as a student, prepared, studied and all this other stuff. And she does that for the show. She'll come in with the data and the facts.
Oh, I've seen her. Yep.
Yeah. And so we're not just talking about what I'm hearing, but it's what she knows. And it's very helpful. Yeah. And so if you're going to move in this area, you really need somebody like Shandy. Also, Rex, same thing with the stock markets going up and down and all around or whatever else. Yeah. It's the economy is It's got its issues. In fact, Monday I'll probably won't be having a guest for the first time in a while. I may just rant for a while. But Rex Russell's been doing this for a long time, and he knows what he's doing, and he's been through the stock market's ups and downs, and so he'll keep you from jumping off the ledge. So become a client, have some coffee with him. He's quite the character. But he really is very outgoing. So
Awesome.
myfinancialbox.com. That's the link you need to hit. myfinancialbox.com. Okay, and also Southern Jim. Have you been here before?
Oh, she has beautiful stuff.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing is she'll have anything made.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a number of friends get some pretty stuff made with her company.
Gayla
so-
does really good work, and you may know this. My wife works there now
Oh, really?
for the summer, and
How
and when
fun.
she leaves the district, which is coming soon, she's going to work there.
So how much
more
has
often.
that cost you this summer?
Well, it would have cost me a lot if I hadn't been just a grouchy old coot, because I've had to put my foot down a couple of times. She comes in and says, "I'm thinking about putting this one aside." I said, "No, there's a reason why you're working this summer. We're trying to pay bills." But Southern Gym is really a high quality inventory, but they do a lot of repairs. They do designs. They do cleanings, consulting, appraisals, whatever. So it's a full service store, and they're going to be expanding in about 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
You're going to go down to the bottom floor of that Windmiller building and have double the space. It means double the inventory.
That's awesome.
It is. They
I love hearing of small businesses doing so well and
Yeah.
getting to grow, and that the community's supporting them and
Yeah.
helping them in
It-
that
it-
effort.
and it is a well-known store because they get customers from travel some distance
Oh,
to
I'm
get
sure.
here.
It's really hard to find small artisan jewelers now. A lot of the Woolard's, retired and closed their doors, and Troy Vinson, my husband, his stepdad worked for Troy for a number of years, and that's where my husband designed my ring. And they no
my.
longer have their Hewlin location, so it's just different, and it's a very different experience when you get to have a conversation and they talk you through, like, what do you see this piece looking like, or transforming one thing that maybe grandma passed down into
Right.
something else.
She gets a lot of that.
I think it's a really neat art.
Woolard's more or less bequeathed, if that's the word, Gayla, their customers. I know. I don't know if they all came over or not, but a lot of them did.
Sure.
Also, you've been in this place before, Hot Works, over on 731.
I'm there
Yeah.
at least 3 or 4 days a week.
Really? That
Yes,
often?
I try.
Which is your favorite workout?
I don't know. I have a few. I like yoga, bar. I'm kind of a weenie though when it comes to the HIIT
blast.
classes. I like the blast. I haven't tried the rowing. I'm too afraid.
Rowing is hard. I tried that the other day.
Do it.
Yeah.
It scares me.
It's like a full-on workout.
on,
It's not even
full
just
on.
cardio.
No.
But then
Burns
that's the thing.
all the stuff. Legs, arms.
But that's the deal. You can do something that maybe is less strenuous for
Sure.
you, or you want to go for the full thing.
The neat thing is you can switch it up. You can do,
Uh-huh.
a cycle class, and then you can get in and do yoga. And it's fun because it's a community there. I recognize so many faces, and we've
Mm-hmm.
got firefighters that work out there, and police officers, and realtors. I mean, it's for anyone of any age, of all abilities,
Mm-hmm.
and I really enjoy it.
I had Michelle Umphrey, the owner, on about 2 weeks ago.
I saw that.
Yeah, and what I liked about our conversation, we talked about her workout facility, but we also talked just about what was on her heart and mind about what's going on in the world, and I did that with Otto, and you could do the same as well. And I think that's what to be interested in now, because when they've been on the show once already and they've talked about their business, on the second time they come on, we want to know them.
Sure.
And Michelle is very entrepreneurial
Yes.
and high energy and works really hard at her business.
I believe that.
And speaking of somebody who works really hard at her business, Mandy Harden at Creative Concepts, she graduated about maybe 2 years after you did. I don't know if you know Mandy Stucks was her maiden name, but Creative Concepts by Mandy over in 1187, and she's the one who made that lovely mug and this
I love it.
beautiful hat. Yes,
Can't
you
wait
know.
to drink out of it.
Yeah, and you drink your coffee out of that.
I
yeah.
can.
Well, I'll give you a whole $1 if you go in the council meeting and drink your coffee. Yeah. Yeah. You think that would,
Thanks for the idea.
Yeah. Well, I know Dan and Ronnie and Chris have them, so maybe all 4 of you at the same time, that'd be fun. Anyway.
I usually have 3 or 4 glasses. In this last meeting, I only had one. They've shrunk our bottles of water down to the littles, and I'm a waterholic, and so I had to borrow Rick Green's.
Oh,
Like,
my.
Rick, can I have your water, please? Like a camel. Just
Well, good.
send all your bottles this
Well,
way.
they tell you that's what you need to do is drink a lot of water. And my wife's always, you need to drink more water. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about the bond. When you were on last, you had a lot of concerns about the bond. it wasn't so much the money, but it was,
Oh, it was the money.
okay. Well, but the basis of our conversation, if I recall, was the lack of specificity
Yes.
that went into the bond.
Sure.
It wasn't just, it was a lot of money, but it was a lot of money that you didn't think was going to be, it's not so much unaccounted for, but it didn't have a real specific purpose. And you were afraid that things would not get done that need to be done, and things would be overspent on that didn't need to be
Maybe
spent
didn't
on.
need to be. Right.
Right. Is that still a concern of yours?
I think that we're moving in a good direction. The citizens clearly supported it, and therefore I have work to do. When they passed it, they said, okay, now what are you going to do? And so the homework aspect of it didn't change. And I feel very encouraged. We have, I think a meeting or two ago, we started a contract with, or we approved a contract to proceed with a staffing study for the police department and a facility study. And I think that'll really help us to understand, no one has a crystal ball, but sometimes it's good to have that third party perspective. When you're in the thick of it, you see, what you have and what you can benefit from, but sometimes having that third party, and we did it for the fire department, had an outside study. And so this will tell us, is what we're planning going to be the best use of the dollars that we have set aside for these projects? I've brought this up in our previous discussions that I've wondered, do we need to plan as we look towards 70,000, 100,000 in population? Do we need to have a satellite police department or a smaller office setting that they don't have to come to the main building off of 174 if that's where we decide to keep the police department long term? That just planning ahead and understanding what we need staffing wise. Are we heading in the right direction? Are we utilizing the staff that we currently have? And I have all the faith that we have amazing people in our police department. I believe in our leadership. I think very highly of Chief Gordell and his captains.
Absolutely.
But I think it's good to just make sure when we're talking about the large sums of money that we're dotting all of our I's and crossing our T's and saying, how do we adequately plan for the future? And in particular, just last year we approved the expansion we added ambulatory services that are going to be coming online in the next year. And that, as far as communications and the impact it's going to have, and right now communications is on the second story of the police building. They're not, they're limited in space, so they can't grow. And we know we're going to hire 2 more dispatchers at the onset, and they're going to require different training. And we know that they don't have quiet space. If you get off of a very difficult call, do you have a minute to wind down? Do you have the space? And there's more calls coming in, and can you step away? If your supervisor needs to talk to you, there really isn't space to do those things, no decompression. And so I'm really, when we had that study presented to us, something that was brought up was the communications aspect and how they would need more space and they would need to grow. And while that has been talked about as far as, when the bond package was being presented, communications is a piece of that, but we didn't dig into how much of it. Is it going to need a separate space? Should it still be connected to PD? Does it need its own facility?
It sounds like, obviously, you ask a lot of questions.
I do.
And some people may get a little bit bristly about that because, they don't want to answer all those questions, right? But as a citizen, and among all my vast listening audience, they want somebody to ask those questions.
Right.
And they want somebody to dig into it. I remember another occasion, I'm not quite as familiar with this situation, and you explained it to me, but when we were expanding the EMT program, now how long ago was it? About 5 months ago, 4 months ago?
Longer than that.
Longer than that, okay. But it was a situation where certain respondents on social media were questioning, why is she asking so many questions? Doesn't she support her firefighters and that kind of routine? How did that end up with the firefighters?
We have a great working relationship, and I think they appreciate it. In the thick of things, they're wondering, is she questioning us? I'm sure, and it was not ever questioning the ability of our fire department and the personnel. I think I think in Burleson, we are unbelievably blessed with the people that serve.
Absolutely.
Both in our fire department and our police department, we have people that care. And I understood that aspect. And that was a point that, Pro Tem McClendon mentioned of, anytime a department is fighting this hard for something, are we listening? But I have a duty to the citizens to ensure that what we're saying if we're going to expand a service, what does the dollars look like? And are we truly dotting all of our I's and crossing our T's and making sure that where we're saying we need growth, we do.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the best service to our citizens? When those discussions were going on, it was just, it was a lot to consider, and knowing that it's a big commitment for years to come. This is not one that we can just easily retract. We can't purchase ambulatory units and hire additional dispatchers and hire a medical director and hire paramedics, and then a couple of years say this isn't working out and just relieve all of those people of those duties. Once we made this commitment, we made the commitment, and I just wanted to make sure. And I felt it was difficult to have some of those discussions, but I felt like the outcome of it was better for it.
And so you're pleased with the outcome of the whole situation at the end of the process. Now, to going through it, it was not much fun, I'm sure.
No,
because the usual suspects were making the usual accusations or insinuations that you don't support the firefighters,
and that was never the case.
or that you had some other motive, and this other bull. And
the only motive I have is to
mm-hmm.
take care of the citizens of this community. I love this town, and I want to make sure any decisions that we make are thoroughly vetted, that we have exhausted all of the options at hand, and that we do what's best for the community. And it's interesting, you get presented with all of this information. I don't have a background in dispatch. I don't service. I've never been in those service roles. And so it's kind of hard. You have to really study and cold called other cities and visited other departments to see how they work and what works best. And I just wanted to make sure anytime we're making a big decision, a big commitment and a complete change in service, this is a big addition for our city, that we just have fully vetted it. And when we come out the end, are we better for asking a lot more questions? I believe we are.
Are the firefighters satisfied with the arrangement that came about from all this?
So I think they're looking forward to it. They're really preparing and working hard. The chief, the assistant chief, now we have 2 assistant chiefs. But I think that they're really preparing to make this as successful as program as they possibly could. And I have all the faith that they will. Unfortunately, it took 37 years to have my 2 first ambulatory rides, and they are the first on scene, and they're thorough. And
when you
so
say
supportive.
ambulatory rides, you're not talking about it as a patient, are you?
As a patient, yes.
Oh my!
Yeah. Just a couple of months apart, and I was teased that I must be testing the system.
Well, I guess if they were really mad at you, they're just taking you half the way. You could walk the rest of the way.
But they came, and they were so just professional and caring, and I knew that they would go above and beyond. And it was not too fun adventures, but they took such good care of me, and I know that this will be, in the long term, it'll work out just the way it was supposed to.
And I'm glad to hear that it had a positive resolution, because I really wasn't understanding all the issues. But
Sure.
it's like, why are they getting so worked up? And basically,
It was emotional.
but not the firefighters. Let's be clear. They
Right.
were. I don't think they acted inappropriately at all.
Right.
But I think it was some people were really getting over the top and saying that you didn't support them by just asking these questions, and it drives you a little nuts.
Yeah.
Now, on a similar topic, okay, I've said before, we talked about the SRO issues. I've said before that asking questions at the right time is an appropriate
Right.
function of civil government.
Mm-hmm.
I got people that were kind of criticizing me. I said, no, I'm not criticizing the idea of asking Billy Cordell about SROs. I was just really questioning the time and also the shall we say, prepared theatrics over it.
Right.
And that's what I was objecting to, because it was, asking Billy questions that he was prepared for, that he knew was coming, that the staff could get prepared for, that you as a council member had access to that material.
Right.
That's what it is all about, and that's fine.
Yes.
But when it goes off on some left field tangent, they start asking a bunch of questions that nobody else is prepared for, which is
Makes
what
it
happened.
hard.
Well, it was at that which did happen at that meeting about 2 weeks ago.
Those were not the remarks I was prepared to make. I thought I was going to commend my colleagues for supporting this long-standing partnership between BISD and the city. And, that's something we should be proud of, that we have had this long-standing positive working relationship. These two entities, the city and the school district, not every community has that positive of a working relationship. And it goes a long way. We're not in silos. We work in conjunction with each other. There's a lot of things that can and do overlap, and it's a partnership. And I believe we're very fortunate in our community to have that positive working relationship. And I don't want that to be.
Well, one of your fans tuned in, Stephen Carl Jansen, says, "We love you, Victoria."
They're some of the best.
Yeah, they.
Have you had his food when he's out at the farmers market?
I need to do that. He says he's going to be back in about a month, but he also has a cookbook coming out. And he put some of his recipes online, I guess, or just what he's doing.
But his pizza dough recipe is super easy, and my children loved it. We went and helped because he cooks at the church,
right?
And but that's open to anyone, and so we went and helped prepare pizzas, and then they have a family style dinner, and then they have a church service at
This is Saturday night.
This is Saturday evening at First United Methodist Church. Yeah.
Well, he's
precious community.
Yeah, when he gets it published, we're going to have him on the show, and we'll swap ideas because I like to cook.
I do too.
I'm an amateur chef by far, very much an amateur, but I like to cook. But anyway, thank you, Stephen. But anyway, back to what we were talking about.
I'm. It's best when we are all on the same page, when we're following the agenda and we know what we're here to discuss. And it is one thing to say, if I have a question about something, can we put this on a future agenda so that we can all, look into the materials and come adequately prepared to have whatever discussion at hand. It's difficult when some are prepared and some aren't for a certain route that they want an item to take. Like I said, I grew up in this town, and I had the great privilege of having an awesome SRO at our school. At our schools, Officer Goldman was with me I remember him coming into the elementary school all the way through middle school and high school. And, following those conversations that were had at that meeting, I was contacted by a number of former students that had stories of individual instances where the only person they felt comfortable approaching was Officer Goldman or Officer Stringer.
Serious nature too.
Yes, two asked to stay anonymous, and they shared some very, very scary, and I can't imagine being in their position. Situations that they only felt comfortable approaching our SROs with. And so I'm just, in general, I'm about relationships and connections, and believe, I still think very fondly of Officer Goldman. And if he and I cross paths, we every once in a while we'll end up at an elk game together and we'll sit next to each other, or, catch up over lunch. He's such a phenomenal person. And I wasn't even a student that necessarily needed to be on an SRO's radar. I was just an average student.
You're better than average. I can vouch for that. But
I wasn't the star volleyball player, and I wasn't the troublemaker. I was somewhere in between.
You were a good student.
He's still, good kid. That when I first came back into the community and was doing things with the congressman, he's like, "I remember you. How are you?" And he knew things about me, about my family, and they're just the information they're garnering, being in those doors days in and days out. It goes, so much further than those four walls. And they know families, they know the teachers, they know the staff. And some things that have been brought up, especially when I was running, is how do we keep this town small? How do we keep that community feel? And it's about relationships, and the community resource officers and our school resource officers play a significant role in those relationships, and knowing who you're comfortable with, who can go to if you have an issue, if it's in your neighborhood, if it's in your school, if it's in your home. And it's just a conversation. I'm not going to say that we shouldn't be diligent with taxpayer dollars, and we shouldn't vet any things that come before us every year when we're talking through our budget. But it's just not one that in the context that it came in that night, I didn't see it coming. And
well, it was insinuated, or it actually said, that these same kind of benefits of the SRO could be accomplished by, a rented security force, or even non-certified peace officers.
Personally, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning to get emotional, but I really, I was stunned, I guess I could say, because I see so much more value. It's not an individual standing at a door with a gun. It's relationships. It's getting to know the students, and this is our community. The kids are our community, the teachers, the staff, and anything that goes on in there, whether it's, I don't know, a situation going on at somebody's home or a situation, they can pick up. They're trained. They're law enforcement. They go through so many hours of mental health training. And I know that Chief Cordell is really working for even more training. He is one of those that believes the more the better. And anytime there have been incidents in our community, when the officers are spoken to, the first thing that they say is, my training helped prepare me to adequately respond to this particular situation. And so, it's just the time that we invest in our officers. It goes beyond a person just standing there, to protect a door. And I have young children in the BISD system, and I've been privileged for many, many years to be invited to a number of different types of training that our BPD does, our fire department does. I've put on entire fire suits and went into burning buildings. I've just been privileged to experience so many different types of training, and I believe in what we have in Burleson, and I support it, and I truly admire the individuals that put their lives on the line for this community.
I've been talking about this for about 2 weeks, and that's the best I've seen it explained yet. And so that one, while you gather more of your thoughts, I want to go ahead and talk about the second round of commercials.
Okay.
All right. Of course, everybody knows Otto was there this morning. Of course, Otto in there, he's in the sack at 6:30 in the morning. Ryan, his son, runs the joint, but
he watches his cameras continuously, so he knows when somebody's been in there. And he's like, I saw that you ordered the such and such. I was like, well, thank you. I hope you didn't notice that I ate a slice of pie and took one home.
Yeah, but he really is a great community citizen. He does a lot of things for people off the radar. And it's great food and great service. And we were talking Tuesday, he was on the show and talking about why he has such longevity in his staff. And there's got to be a large part of that because of his generosity. And he brought me a pecan pie, and it's aces. Good stuff,
Good pie.
Yeah. And so thank you, Otto, at our place. Also, Chris at Wild Cigar. Does Philip smoke cigars?
He doesn't.
He looks like a cigar smoker or a pipe smoker, maybe. I don't know. You could do that too there.
He's good at pretending. He'd hold it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the smell of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the good thing about it, I've been there several times.
But it's not overwhelming.
Not overwhelming. You don't walk in there and get blasted with some big puff of smoke. I mean, it's very well ventilated. And if you ever wanted to try a cigar, they have trained tobacconists there, not just some high school kid running the counter. They got people that are trained in this, and you say, well, they'll ask you, she'll ask you, they got a female tobacconist as well. They'll ask you, what kind of experience do you want? What kind of taste do you want? And they'll figure something out for you. And then you get the bar, which is always nice. And it's a quiet place. I've seen people do business there. You're not getting...
I think the way they did it, it's just so well done. It's such a nice feeling when you walk in. It's well presented. And I mean, they really knocked it out of the park on that one.
Yes.
I think it's one of those shining stars in Burleson.
He is doing it a lot better now. I tell him it's because it pays to advertise, but his business has really taken off in the last 2-3 months. I think people, once they go there, they said, I'm coming back.
It's a different experience. Yeah. I think it's so elegant in there.
And then you have Tiffany Griffin, who is gallivanting all over the country. She's been in Hawaii. Yeah, and now she was in California. Today's her birthday.
It is. Yeah. I saw that on Facebook. Happy birthday, Tiffany.
She's 39.
She's another community
39
champion.
Again.
Yeah. Something like that. She's another community champion.
She really is.
I loved the last series where we talked about some of our community heroes. Mary Slaney on the cover
Isn't that a perfect picture?
Oh my gosh, it was so precious. And you get to hear about some local things. I know Daniel Baisden doesn't like to be bragged on, but the cool things that people are doing. And what's even neater, in his particular bit, he talked about supporting 2 initiatives that, the Eagle's Nest and I forget the name of the other one, but those are Burleson people that are out doing amazing things in the world in Guatemala. And
I had the Terry and
Rachel's her name. What is her organization? She's a doctor.
You talk about over in Guinea?
Yeah.
Rachel Tucker was her.
Right?
Yeah, that was her maiden name.
And so,
but it's Jameson is the last name. That's her married name.
Isn't it neat? We got to be alongside these people and learn next to them and have mentors and friendships, and to see them go all over the world and do such amazing things that are life-changing is pretty impressive.
I'm kind of trying to get her back to get Zoom on the call. Of course,
Sure.
for her to run over here from Guinea, Africa is going to be kind of tough to do.
Maybe.
But I have Eagles Nest on about once a quarter because I'm so impressed with both the McConnells. You know,
Yes.
they picked up and went down there.
I know.
They literally did that biblical instruction that Christ says that, pick up your cross and follow me kind of thing. And I really
I follow them
admire
on
that.
Facebook. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
When they have an adoption, oh my goodness.
I have a couple of children that I'm sponsoring, and I feel like I never met these children. I had one that was sponsoring for a while, and she got adopted, and I'm like, and it clutched me, and I had never met her, but it's like I had an emotional attachment to some little girl in Guatemala that I had never met before.
We don't sponsor through Eagles Nest, but we're Catholic and we belong to St. Anne's Catholic Church, and so
Right.
there's a similar sponsorship type program. It's long history, but we sponsor a young lady from Guatemala. I guess we've had her for probably 4 years now, and we have her pictures on our refrigerator. And every night, Audrey, my daughter, prays, and for Becky in Guatemala. So it's precious, and they love hearing her letters that her mom writes on her behalf to us
Well, that's
about
where
their
it's at, isn't
chickens
it?
and about their goats and what
Yeah.
they're able to do with such little funding. It's
the
amazing.
benefit. I know you're providing a benefit for that child, but the benefit your daughter's getting out of this is incalculable.
It is. Every
re-
time she's like, have we received a new picture from Becky this year? And
Well-
she wants to hear what she's doing, what she's learning in school. And we tell her what we're learning and talking about at home and science experiments and all the stuff.
And so much broadening of her horizons.
Exactly.
I mean, how old is she? About 7?
My daughter's 7.
Right. And so you're talking about most 7-year-olds may or may not have any kind of experience outside their own little community or their little school or
Right.
church or whatnot. And here she's being exposed to, hey, there are people outside, even the United States. And so that's a pretty good deal. But I was going to talk to you also about not just specific things, but what's it like being a member of the council, particularly when you have to deal with people that don't agree with you? And sometimes those disagreements get unpleasant. How do you deal with that?
I deal with it as I believe I should, as an adult, as a professional. I've had many, many years of training. I started working for a senior member of Congress at 22. And
A Democrat in this area of the state.
it was a Democrat in a very red district that was specifically drawn to beat him. And so I had to have tough conversations. There were individuals that did not agree with the things that he was doing, and that's okay. We can have disagreements, and we can truly deliberate things. Like, I am all ears. Tell me what your thoughts are. And I was very proud of the amount of citizens who wrote in. There's a button on the city's website that says connect with council, and it email blast all of us. And while I have not, because it's summer and I'm a mom and no day is the same, I am so behind in emails, but I promise if you text or call, I'm a lot more immediate in getting back
You
with
put your personal phone number out there?
I have a cell phone number that is out there, yes.
But
And I can list it at the end of the show.
Well, that's fun, but do you not get calls at 2 a.m.
I
crank?
don't know.
Or nasty text or something like that?
I've had a text that was terse. I wouldn't
All
say
right.
nasty.
All right.
But no, it's like, during the campaign, I put this number out there, and I was so proud. I received 2 calls. 2 gentlemen called me. I didn't know their name. I didn't know them from anything. They just said, "Hi, I saw your cell phone was posted. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions." And we had such good conversations. I hope I earned their vote. I don't know. But it just let's have conversations. That's how we learn from each other, and that's how we grow. And let's truly deliberate topics. And that's a thing that, is frustrating. It has to be to the citizens, and it's frustrating to me as a counterpart to those that are sitting up in that dais with me when we have an agenda and we plan for the items that we're going to talk about that night. Then we're doing our due diligence. And when we stray or expect our colleagues to catch on to a curveball, that's not beneficial to anyone. It's not beneficial to the citizens that are watching, because maybe it's something that's important to them that they wish they would have known was going to be discussed that night. So, I'm all for, it's okay to disagree, but let's disagree in a cordial. There's ways to have conversations that are
So you don't take it
productive.
personally
No.
if somebody says, I don't like that idea.
No.
And they discuss it, or they just, but they're civil about it.
Sure.
You don't take it personally.
I don't.
See, this is what's been driving me a little bit nuts in the last 3 or 4 weeks is that certain members on the council feel like they're owed such deference that if you disagree with them, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And you're doing it from immoral or bad motives. And that they want to play the victim card. And that's not really a suitable mindset for an elected official. I got people that on this that said stuff about me on the show to me through texting, not so much texting, but through messaging, that I'm not going to show my mother. All right, but I was like, hey, thanks for listening. But the idea that that you can't criticize their ideas or maybe their conduct or their attitude without getting twice in return. Well, they're in the wrong line of work because that's part of the job. I accept it here because I offered to do this show. I've been doing it for 3+ years now, and it's like I take that on and whatever. But it bothers me that we can't have a conversation with some folks in this community or in leadership positions without being so, well, you're just too stupid for your own good. And that's just wrong. And they have their outlets to do this, and all this. They don't. I've been asked, do you mind if I take this moment? It's your time, but I've been asked if I had Mr. Stanford on the show, and I was advised by a couple of people, you might be a good idea, but I've come to the conclusion, if I can't trust how he conducts himself on JOCO or at a city council meeting, I don't want him to do that here. I'm not going to give him a platform where he can do what he does already in public. He has the outlets he wants for that. He can go on them anytime he wants. But I'm not going to have that here because I don't trust him or Ms. Payne to conduct themselves with any kind of decorum because they haven't done it so far. What makes me think they're going to do it sitting in that seat? And I'm not going to allow this show to be used as a platform to attack other people in the community that don't agree with them. So that's my position on that. Mr. Stanford come out in the meeting Monday night and said, Mr. Al won't let me on the show. That's true, sir. That's absolutely true. So you got me there. I had to say that because I had people text me and ask me that question, are you going to do this? And I'm not now. And when they were doing it, the people said I should, were doing it from good motives, okay? They weren't doing it just for the ratings or whatever. But I just don't want to turn this into a Jerry Springer show. So, and I think I expressed my opinion for the community to both Mr. Stanford and Ms. Payne. If you can't take constructive criticism, objective criticism without being upset and angry and bursting into tears about it and using whatever outlets you have to attack the citizens or myself or anybody else, well, we're not going to play ball with you. So there you are.
It has been hard to sit through some of the previous meetings and hear attacks because my whole purpose in running for council and wanting to serve in this capacity was to do good for our community and to serve to the best of my ability. And I don't want to bring people down. I don't believe that that's my primary role. I want to build us up. And my fear is that we're going to drive away people. We're going to drive away.
That's a big concern of mine too.
We're going to drive away people who want to potentially bring a business to our town or someone who wants to move to our town. I want this to be a welcoming place for all. But it's not to say all ideas shouldn't be kicked around. If you have a genuine concern or you want to hash through something in the budget, like let's do that in a professional manner. But there have been remarks where individuals have been called out. Your show was called out. Nonprofits have been put on the spotlight, or a local business leader or someone with a creative idea to bring an event to our community so that people can enjoy and spend time and money and see what all the great things our community has to offer. And my fear is if people get, if they feel like that the creativity, ingenuity, and ideas are not going to be welcome, then they're not going to bring them to our community. And that makes me sad.
Well, and it also makes me sad that I've talked to a few people that want to serve in some capacity, either an elected or appointed position, but they're unwilling to go through the gauntlet that you did,
right?
Or Catherine did, or Ken did or anybody did, and so they don't want to go through that routine with their families because a small segment will get on certain Facebook pages and just rip you to shreds without any basis at all.
Yeah.
Other platforms will have no compunction whatsoever about getting personal in their comments. I mean, they say things about Otto that are very unpleasant and unfair. And so that's my concern, is that we're getting to a situation where if we don't have more good people run, only the people with poor intentions are going to be left available. And this May, we have very important elections coming up, 4 spots. And I have a great deal of concern about them because we need to have people like yourself. Absolutely. I'm friends with Chris, and I've gotten a lot more, as I got to know him, I got more regard for him. And so I ran out of time with him, but absolutely, those other 3 council spots, we need people like you. And
I hope people will run. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes a lot more time than I anticipated. I remember talking to a previous council member, and I was told it wasn't going to be as time consuming as it is, but it is. And it's definitely what you want to put into it. And like I said, during the summer, I haven't had the best balance of time. Just no week is the same. And being mom, trumps all things. Inevitably,
you said Trump.
Inevitably, somebody's got, baseball practice or a dance to get to. And so my apologies to any citizen out there waiting for a response that if I haven't gotten to you yet. But, it's a time commitment, but it's about giving back to your community. What do we want to see this place become? And where are we going, and what do we want to do with it? Now, I've always been upfront about why I ran. I ran because I love this community and I want to give back, but I care about certain things. I care about parks. I care about community spaces. I care about taking care of our citizens and alleviating traffic so you can get home and make that dinner that you had planned instead of sitting at the 32 red lights to get from 35 to the North Joshua, where North Joshua sits. And if you live in Mountain Valley or the neighborhood across from that, now you've had to sit through so many lights, and that dinner that you originally had planned has now just become a free for all, and your kids are eating.
Go to Taco Bell.
Yeah, just eating whatever you can scrounge up.
You
for
go
the
to
night.
our place and pick up to go.
They're not open in the evening. They close at 2.
3 actually now.
Oh, 3.
Okay. You're right. All right. I asked him that on the show. Are you ever going to go for dinner hours? And he said
there's no advantage.
No, the added expense and the added hours and the stress it put on his workforce.
Sure. When you got a model that works, stick with it.
Yeah.
But I did it because I wanted to bring something positive to the table, and I'm a mom. I'm in the thick of it. I have kids in the school system, and I moved back here because I enjoyed where I grew up and I wanted to make it a better place. And I think those are the kind of people that there's so many more out there. And my pitch to anyone considering running for council is, there's some silliness out there, but overall the experience is so positive, and the majority of our community is supportive, and they might bend your ear about something, but that's okay. Sometimes people just want to feel heard, and that's, I can sit down and have coffee with anyone and tell me.
That nice cup you got now.
I know I have this cup. Do you think I could, Taylor, do you think I can take this into,
Dwell?
Yeah, go for it.
But we got to have honest conversations and constructive conversations, and that's what's going to make this community better. Everyone has an opportunity to feel heard.
Well, you've been on the board over a year plus now.
Yep.
Your relationship with Chris Fletcher seems to be pretty good, at least from my vantage point. Y'all seem to be working well together.
I believe so.
And I mentioned him just a few minutes ago. He's on the show on a monthly basis now, and I've gotten to know him better, and some of my concerns have been answered.
Good.
When he was elected, I was wondering if this is going to work or not, but I think it's working pretty well. When I look at a decision-making body, I don't judge it based on how many times they vote the way I would have voted. I judge it based on what is their attitude about their position and their job. I mean, like the school board, for example. I knew most of the school board members personally, so I knew the motivations, their heart for the kids, their genuineness about trying to take care of staff. Sometimes finances or other circumstances didn't make that easy for them or possible for them.
Right.
Sometimes I wish they'd have chosen option B rather than option A and all this other business. But that's what representative democracy is. Democracy is not getting what you want all the time. It's voting for the right people to make hopefully the right decisions
For the whole.
for the whole.
Right.
And you're not just representing the number of people who voted for you or the area town maybe where you got the most votes or the demographic that would have voted for you. This is not a problem just for Burleson. It's a problem for Texas. It's a problem for the United States, certainly, where people feel like I only need to represent that 51% or so of the people that support what I'm doing, and everybody else can go, jump in the lake. That's the tough part about governing is that you're here for the big picture, and you may have to disappoint people that help get you there.
It's true.
And how do you deal with that? Just you try to explain it to them?
You do. I mean, I study everything that's put before me. I thoroughly vet my packet prior to each meeting. I go out and see things for myself. If it's a pothole, if it's a stoplight that's not changing colors, is it what can benefit our community? I'm driving all over this town all day long between running kids, mom's taxi service to visiting with citizens, going to local shops and shopping and eating. And so, it's just staying in tune and then thoroughly understanding any item that's before us and then being able to defend, why did I make a certain decision? And this, based off of the information I was presented, this is where I fell. And as long as I can explain that, I believe that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Is there a vote now after a year plus that you wish you can go back and change?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's
had to do with a particular development. We were all
Main Street, yeah.
That one was kind of just, we were pigeonholed on that one. But even more recently, there's a development that's coming off of 174, kind of over next to Kroger, a little bit south of Kroger. And I don't think I fully understood it. I know some of my colleagues didn't either. We were all on the struggle bus on that one because it was like, sometimes there are confines as far as if it meets a certain zoning, if it fits these bills, if it checks all the marks, then there's not much we can do. And so that was one that was a struggle. It's like, okay, well, the density that you're proposing is very high for this area, but how do you straddle a line of how do you, in voting for something, you have to be able to explain, it's not, no, I don't want this because I don't like the look of it. That's not good enough. And that's not
it's not aesthetically pleasing.
Well, yeah, you can't just say, I just don't like it. That doesn't stand up in court.
Yeah.
And I try to limit how much dollars we're going to waste in a lawsuit. I don't want to waste taxpayer dollars getting sued over, not approving a development or not approving a certain thing that checked all the boxes for such and such zoning, but I just didn't, I don't want one, if I came out and said, I just don't want one more car wash, but I know car wash fits in this commercial zone and there's nothing I can do but approve it because that's free market and the citizens are going to determine whether or not a business thrives or doesn't. And sometimes those are hard. Those are hard decisions to be like, do I really want such and such business going in there? Personally, no. Does it check all the boxes? Yes. So am I legally bound to say yes? Yes, I am.
Well, if I want to ever just kind of needle Chris or Dan, I just bring up that apartment complex on Main Street. I think Fletcher almost came that close to cussing on the air when I brought it in the last meeting.
Yeah.
Dan, I was afraid would start cussing on the air because I know he's a bit more salty, but they just grind their teeth. And,
it is. We were under the.
Well, I guess they changed the deal. I wonder if you voted for X and you turned out, well, actually Y was the better option.
But we learned a lot from that because now we are all more, we have a heightened awareness. If we're going to support a planned development, we now know to be to be strict and as concise and definitive as possible. We need it to be X, Y, and Z. No maybes, no potentially, could possibly. We got to avoid the vague language that then allows those developers to come back and say, well, you told me I had flexibility. And now that the market has changed, I don't think this is going to work. So I'm going to go with X instead of Y. And you're like, now what do we do?
Yeah. You've been on the losing end on votes. Do you take it personally?
No.
Okay. You feel like you made the right vote, but do you also understand the
Sure.
rulings of democracy, so to speak?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. And you can't ever tell about elections. 2008, 2012 come to mind. I had to live with that, So
No, I don't take
You
it
know what,
personal.
know.
I do my due diligence. I study the issues. I read through all the presented information. I ask questions thoroughly. I ask a lot of questions. Even if it's not during council meetings, I'm emailing staff and trying to understand things to the best of my ability. And that's what I can go off of. And I'm going to vote my conscience and how I believe the community can benefit or not benefit from a particular item at hand.
Well, and I've noticed in the votes, you're on the winning side most of the time. I mean, and by with the mayor on the majority. So I think that there is some common consensus, at least amongst those who are voting in the majority most of the time, about what they want to see for the community.
Mhm.
And so that's again why those elections in May are so important. And well, I'm sure as we get closer to it, I'll probably having candidates on it. I hope I will. And people say, well, you're just going to have a certain type of candidate. Not if they can behave themselves and be appropriate. I'll have, in the last election, I had several other candidates that ended up winning.
Mm-hmm.
One of my regrets, and this is a public regret, and I say apology, I couldn't get Mr. Gillespie and I on the same, we couldn't communicate close enough or quickly enough. That's the better word, not close, but quickly enough to make it work. And I wish I had him on, but I didn't. And that's really more my fault than his. And I'm going to try to do better. But again, with certain understandings.
Sure.
And I know it's a little early in your term. You going to run again?
Wow.
I threw that out
Put
there,
a
didn't
girl
I?
on the
Yeah. Well, you
on
can
the
think about.
spotlight. I would be honored to run again.
Okay. Sorry, did I really catch you off guard?
No, I'm pretty open with,
Yeah.
I know why I'm here. I enjoy the work. I love serving my community, and I'll do this for as long as the community will have me. Well, I won't be here for 20 years, I don't believe.
No, and
But-
because there may be families
There's going to be
considerations.
other things that
Yeah.
come up, but as long as I'm giving back to this community and making it a better place,
Besides, you can't serve in Congress and then city council at the same time.
I don't know that I'm going to go that high anymore. I used to have big aspirations, but I realize I like being at the level that makes the most difference. When we make a vote, you see the effects of that pretty quickly. Versus when I worked on things at the federal level, it may be years, or it may be held up or chopped into a million pieces before it finally made it to the
Boy.
ground.
Yeah.
And so it's just different. And I never really understood that until I got more involved in city government. And I've just truly enjoyed the projects that we get to work on. We're doing a lot of cool things. And I don't think we get distracted sometimes, and we don't toot our horn enough. These partnerships, these longstanding partnerships that we have with other governmental entities, the regional partnerships that we're trying to forge. I was
Oh, wait,
recently,
we were talking about that. Yeah, the Council of Governments. Tell us about that.
I am the North Central Texas Council of Governments. It's a committee of 16 counties, and they all come together to work on regional issues. And it was a major honor to get selected for the executive board. There are 17 of us. There's 16 representatives from throughout those 16 counties, and then they have one ex officio member who's a state representative that is a part of the board as well. But we are going to look, there's things that Burleson doesn't, we're not in a bubble, even though I love to, when the weather's coming, right? We're in a bubble, and whatever big storm, whatever rain, we get passed up, right? But
Rain, I'm vaguely familiar with that.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Wouldn't it be nice? But we're not in a bubble, and we are part of a larger region, and the growth that is affecting the Metroplex is affecting us. And it helps to have conversations with counterparts that are facing a lot of the same issues. We can hear and share and commiserate, but come up with solutions together. And it's truly an honor. I applied for this, and I submitted quite a hefty packet to be considered. And I think it was like, you can submit one letter of support. And I think I sent 5. I was, reaching across all the lines and reaching out to everyone that I knew and in neighboring communities and state representatives and state senators. And, but it's just truly an honor. It's a great, great opportunity for our community. And I hope that I serve it well and I represent our community well in this position. But
I think the consensus opinion is you're a blessing to the community.
thank you.
And I truly mean that.
Thank you.
And, not just the support for, I'm reading on the screen over here or on the phone is also, we need a lot more like you with a lot more people like with your kind of civic duty and attitude towards it and the ability to navigate, if you don't expect to have your own way 100% of the time
No.
and deal with it appropriately. I appreciate that a lot. You don't see that in Washington. You see less and less of it in Austin. And I want to see that here. And Washington's a mess. You don't want to go to Congress anyway, and this may be heresy, but I thought Chet Edwards is a very good member of Congress. I know he is that evil D after his name. Actually, I told you before, a couple of my not as fond listeners called me an evil Democrat, right?
Yeah, I do remember.
Yeah,
that.
and I'm thinking, wow, the evil, I'm okay with. Democrat, man, come on now.
that was overstepping.
Hey, bro, that's cheap shot, And
You're definitely not that.
Yeah.
Anyone who's known you for all these years
Yeah.
knows you're not that.
You've known me since you were a student, and have I ever given you any inclination I was a
No,
Democrat? I didn't
ever.
think so.
Not ever. No, we knew exactly where you stood. But it was an experience to be able to work for a senior member of Congress who was able to get things done. And because of the role that he held in Congress and because the role I got to play in being part of his staff, we accomplished a lot of neat things, particularly in this county, helping with secure funding for things like armored vehicles for the Burleson PD or a park for the city of Joshua, the first ever city park in Joshua. And families get to play at that splash pad and fish in their little pond, and they have baseball fields and things. There's things that impacted the daily lives of people because of the position that.
Well, Ronnie
held.
Johnson says you are a wonderful councilwoman.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Catherine is very honored to have you representing this town. I remember kind of finished up on Mr. Edwards. I really appreciated what he did with the veterans because my dad's a veteran and a lot of my family served. And I thought that was his big thing.
It was his passion. And it was one that was contagious.
And it was sincere.
It was so sincere.
It wasn't like just, I need to find something to make my name with. I thought
Every Thanksgiving, his family would go up to Walter Reed and spend time there.
tough.
And, it was something that I truly admired. And it's a big piece of what made me so proud to work with him is the passion that he had for veterans and veterans issues.
Okay. I just got a text from my daughter, so that's no big deal. I'll address that
That's
later.
later.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going to have to finish this up. I'm going to run through the ads real quick and
All
then
right.
give you the last word.
Okay.
So, thank you to Daniel over CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. It's behind Stone Soup. I bet you like that place too.
I love Stone Soup.
I just give them a free shout out because my wife likes it too.
I eat there a lot.
Yeah.
And my son loves Mojo's. That's his
Real?
favorite restaurant.
More than our place? Well, okay. Well,
He
no.
loves their brisket and
Of
rice.
course.
Oh.
Well, no, see,
And
no,
the
no,
staff
no.
knows this. They're like, it must have been Oliver's dinner request tonight.
Well, Otto is very, very
supports
supportive.
local.
Oh, yeah, he
He
says
does.
his favorite place outside his own is Fresco's, which I like a lot too.
Can't blame him there. They
Yeah.
have amazing fajitas.
Yeah. So CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire, also have the Shandy Stockstill group. If you, like I said, you're going to look for some real estate in this area, talk to Shandy because she'll get it on before it comes on the market. I'm reading about the market cooling, but nationally it is, but it don't seem to be cooling here. It seems to be real estate is still hot property here. I mean, I get those little reports every month about how much my house has gone up. I'm like, man, I'm glad I'm here because I'd never be able to afford it
I wouldn't be
now.
able to afford it now.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that about our house too.
And also thank you to Rex over in Cleveland. Hit myfinancialbox.com at the Russell Wealth Group, and he'll have a little video, come have a little coffee. He'll help you through this troubled financial times because it's, it's concerning. I'm glad I'm not living on a 401k right now because it's just taking a beating.
It is.
And also, thank you to Gayla. I hope you're doing well over at Southern Gym. Got nice stuff to look at, nice stuff to get repaired.
It Send it Gayla's way.
She is a real jewelry expert, though. This isn't something she just does or decided to get into. She's been doing this for 25 years, maybe.
Neat.
And so she's very experienced in this. Also, thank you to Michelle at Hotworks. You know, you can endorse that yourself, right? You talk, does it really work for you? Huh?
I love it.
Yeah, everybody that has ever gone in there has said it's a revolutionary kind of situation.
Different.
Yeah. You know, CrossFit, you know, you're building up bulk. With Hotworks, you're trying to just make
And they complement each
Yeah,
other.
they
And that's
very
the cool
much-
thing that Michelle recognizes and really makes a plug for is like, you can do other fitness routines and this still have a benefit. Another one of those like just gets being part of the community and how we can all help each other.
And I'm just impressed with her business acumen. She's very, very sharp. Also, another sharp young lady, Mandy Harden over at Creative Concepts by Mandy, you know, the creator of this hat, these cups, all this. Hopefully I'll get some more pretty soon. Since people, I've been giving them away to the guests, people say, hey, I want one of those. So I thought maybe one of those farmers market days, I'll just come with about a dozen. No, hand them out.
That's
give
a
one
cute
to
idea.
Give one to Jensen, you know, if he's still there. Maybe give one to Chaz Forster, because I always appreciate what he does for the
Oh
community.
my gosh. This last week, he got creative and they covered the walkway with extra tents. It made it so much more tolerable for the shoppers and the vendors. I stayed a little bit longer, so I really appreciate what he brings to this community. I love the farmers market.
I do too.
All of the nifty businesses that come out. It's truly
It's one of the
a
best things.
gem for our
Yeah,
community.
It's one of the best things we got going.
Right.
You know, it's several things. I also like, I don't know, there's things I really like is those hot summer nights on Friday nights.
Oh yeah, my
You know.
mom does too. She's out there at like 11 setting her chairs out.
And she's a lot
She means
hardier
business.
than I, yeah. But still, you know, but those are the things we need to focus on more than, you know,
We're doing a lot of
couple
great
of Grinches
things
on Facebook or whatever.
We have such a good community, and we should focus on the good.
yeah. And I noticed that with schools.
Yeah.
That people say, oh, you must be tough dealing with parents. I could count on one hand in 28 years, maybe unpleasant conversations with parents, personal,
Sure.
you know, stuff. I mean, when I say unpleasant, I mean, maybe I had to tell them bad news, but I'm talking about acrimonious conversations, because almost always I got support from the community. And that was a real blessing.
Our teachers have a hard job. Y'all
Oh.
are asked to teach manners, give, you know, some structure on top of teaching, on top of keeping our kids safe. You're asked to do a lot of things, and I just truly admire anyone in the education field. But I'm very ready for school to get back in session because I like routine. And
Yeah, well, also you need a little peace, you know. Which schools do they go to?
mine will both be at Nola Dunn this year.
Well,
Oliver starts kinder, and Audrey will be in second grade, and then because I don't know how to not be more involved, I've applied for that executive board too. I mean, why not?
yeah, well, of course. Oh, you need something to do with the 10 minutes of your spare time.
Exactly.
Also, Otto, thank you for everything you do for the community. Great meals, of course. I'll be seeing you, I'm sure, next week. The great pie that he dropped by on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Well, it is. And his son is a very sharp young man.
Their food is just so good.
I mean, I need to get Ryan on this show because he really runs the joint. Otto just kind of walks around like the maitre d', or you know,
The mayor of our place.
Yes.
It's like, hello, hello.
Well, you
he
know,
has like the Queen's wave.
and
People know
you
him and they cheer.
I compare him to Dean Martin, so, you know, or Frank Sinatra, just, you know, the celebrity. You know, he does a lot of good, and also Chris does a lot of good. I don't know how well you know Chris Snowden.
Don't.
Well, if you ever have a chance, you're over there with.
I'm there.
You know, you need to talk to him if he's
Okay.
there, because he's very bright and articulate, and
Awesome.
I would say y'all have more in common politically than he and I do, and I find it to his credit that he wants to support this kind of programming, because we've had political conversations, and he's exactly what we've been talking about. We can have some very different opinions, but it never gets acrimonious and never gets personal. And if you're going to debate with him, you better be prepared.
That's cool.
I had Seth Reeves on. I don't know if you know him.
Yes.
He's a teacher at Centennial.
CHS. Mhm.
Yeah, and
I see you two sometimes bantering.
there's You're Too Kind. Otto says.
Otto, is that for me or
it's-
this man?
No,
It was for me.
It's for Taylor.
Oh, it's for Taylor.
Taylor's-
Well, but Seth is an exceptionally bright man, and when we were debating about gun control issues, I mean, he had me on the ropes a couple of times,
Oh,
and so he's very sharp. I may get him again on other topics.
how fun.
Yeah, and so I like to have those kind of conversations.
too.
You know, with people that
And I think that's what people enjoy talking about
Mm-hmm.
with me is like, I just want to have educated conversations, and maybe I can learn something. But even if we both walk away still feeling the same, it was fun having a truly thought out conversation.
Well, it may not change your mind, but it changes your perception of the other side.
Sure.
And, I have a great deal of respect for Chris and for Seth. And Otto has his opinions, and they're not always 100% like mine. And that's a good thing, actually, because I don't want to live in an echo chamber. When I do my readings in preparation for maybe my rants, if you call them that, or whatever, I start with the New York Times and go all the way down to Wall Street Journal and National Review, or a website called Dispatch, which is pretty conservative. But I also go to like the Daily Beast, which is fairly liberal, because and I'll read something and go, I've been wrong all these years. My stars. No, that's an interesting perspective. And Otto says, no, the comments
thanks,
for both of us, but more for you. Well, anyway, I'm distracted here. Also, Tiffany, just as sweet as can be, isn't she? And I really like what she does.
She's very professional.
Very much.
Puts out a great it's beneficial to the whole community. I really enjoyed her magazine. I think it's awesome that it went to a full size.
Right.
And
she's gotten a lot of positive commentary.
I enjoy the articles that are in there and the businesses that get advertised. So kudos to the business that she's running, and wish her all the success with it.
So check out locallifetx.com. As far as next week's shows, Monday I'm just going to be commentating on some of the things going on in the economy primarily. Tuesday I have the Harvest House.
Oh,
this is the first time for me. I mean,
I'm so excited about their new resale shop.
We're going to talk about that.
And I saw city staff from Parks and Rec were helping to unload and move things over to the new building. So thank you to those city staff members who dedicated some time in helping to give back to our community.
I do know for Chris, this is one really close to his heart. He
has been on the board for a number of years.
Right. He's very big in Harvest House. And I'm looking forward to talking to Jennifer Woods.
I think she's savvy.
Is she? Okay. I've just had media contact, so to speak, or whatever. I haven't met her personally, but I'm sure she'll be great. And then I don't know what to do Thursday. I'll figure something out.
This week was hot and heavy.
Yeah, last 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks have been.
Yeah. So you get the last word. Tell us what you want to know.
Well, I just thoroughly enjoy any opportunity to come visit with you. I appreciate the conversations that we have, and so I just want to thank you, Mr. Allard, and I want to thank the community for allowing me to serve. And don't hesitate to reach out, email me. I promise I'll get to you. But my cell phone is 682-703-0348, and anyone is welcome to text or call. And I truly admire and appreciate those that do take the time. It's not always easy to put down your thoughts in writing or reach out to an elected official of any capacity, but we can't serve in this role without hearing from the citizens that we're serving. We need to know what your thoughts are on any given topic, and I appreciate, again, those that wrote in about the SRO and many other things, everything from expanding the splash pad hours. We added 2 days a week from 5 and under from 8 to 10 a.m. And for sensitivity, children with sensory issues. I apologize. I said sensitivity, but sensory issues. There's 2 additional days and hours added for that pool of residents. And we're just trying to the best of our ability, be the community that's welcoming and here for all. And so let us know your thoughts. I encourage residents to reach out to us as individual council members, but also there's a button that says connect with all, and we receive those messages, all of us, and let us know your thoughts on any given thing and tell us what we should be working on.
I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you serving. I appreciate you taking occasionally the cheap shot bullet for us, so to speak. I appreciate the willingness to serve, because as I've done this job for 3 years or so, I've gotten a much closer view of what it takes, and I appreciate it very much. And
well, I'm honored,
and,
really.
And I hope to have you on. Are we on like every other month?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it'll be about two months from now on a Thursday, I suppose. Maybe the kids' schedule will change that.
Yay
Who knows?
for being back in school by that point.
Yeah. But 2 months from now, we'll be back again. And I'm sure we'll have more hair pulling to talk about. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you,
Taylor.
Ethan.
Thanks, Ethan.
All right. Stay out of trouble, guys. And
Appreciate you all.
And we'll talk to y'all later.